How goes it? It's Matt here. I'm a poet from Wales and I don't read enough books because I'm a piece of shit. No, really, I should just read more, especially if I'm writing a lot. And I just enjoy it, but in the world we're in right now, there's too many distractions. So I'm out here. I've been reading this whenever I can, amongst other books. It's this room that we've loosely decorated and it's a bit bare at the moment, but it's nice and it's cozy. So I'm couched up here and I want to talk to you about this book. You might have heard of it loosely. It's called Roadside Picnic. And what it's about is imagine if, do you know those tossers who go through a beauty spot and then chuck their McDonald's wrappers on the side of the road and infect the local wildlife? Maybe they change the oil to their car and discard or something or whatever, and it just spoil the environment. This book, sort of, is like, imagine if aliens did that to us. Imagine if aliens came through space on their way somewhere, stopped, dropped some shit, and fucked off. What would that do to us? Not only the physical things in the world, what the alien left, but what does the mental things that we go through? Now, my edition is got all these marks on it. It was kind of left next to a damp wall years ago. It hasn't grown mold since or anything like that. I think they're just a couple of watermarks, and that's life, not buying another one. You might have heard of it because Tarkovsky directed a film based on this book, kind of loosely based on this book, called Stalker. Now that film, in about 2011, I illegally downloaded it. I'd watched Solaris. You might have heard of Solaris, another Tarkovsky film, which was a sort of opposite way round to 2001, rather than 2001: A Space Odyssey. Rather than this cold front that space travel is in 2001, Tarkovsky tried to do something more human. And in that film, the spaceship actually kind of has normal furniture, like living rooms and stuff, a bit more, or even more cozy than the carpets in Star Trek or something like that. And I watched that. And Stalker, I just seen a poster for it. I had read nothing about it. I knew nothing. Just, that's an intriguing name, isn't it? So I just downloaded it. And I sat down for whatever it is, 2.5 to nearly 3 hours, I think. And it's the closest thing I've ever had while watching a film that felt like a religious experience. And I'm not a religious person. So I finally got around to reading this book. It's called, it's by the Strugatsky brothers. And they also wrote Hard to Be a God, which you might have heard of. There's like a mad film that I love that's based on that as well. But that's a film I struggle to recommend to people because it's a slog, but at the same time, one of the best films I've ever seen. I don't know what to think about it. It's weird. Anyway, this book, imagine if aliens came past, dropped some shit, and fucked off. What would that do to us as people? What would that do to us as society? What has happened? I'll build up the world for you and then we'll go through it, and I'll tell you when I get to more spoilery things if you just want to then turn the video off. This is set, I think 30 years, I can't remember, but I think it's 30 years after that incident happened. And essentially, these zones have been left. There's 4 or 5 of them on the planet. And in these zones, kind of mind-bending, strange stuff goes on. You have these kind of gravity things that could, if you walk through them, would wring you out like a towel. You have electrical storms that are very, very, very small. Things where lightning will just hit you and it will just appear above you. There's all sorts of weird things, and there's these guys, they're called stalkers, that the government at a whim sometimes allows, sometimes doesn't. They venture into the zone and they get out artifacts, because the government will send people in, scientists, but those scientists won't take the same risks that a stalker will, who could get a bunch of cash for what they found. So we're following a stalker called Redrick. That's his name, Redrick. He's always called Red, so I call him Red from now on. We're following a bloke called Red and some other various characters as well, and their interactions with the zone. Red's whole life has been sort of now based around the zone. The whole area is pretty mad. The whole town they're in. You think of like a Chernobyl, but imagine if people didn't leave. And things there, the people there are getting changed in a way that's really odd. So Red, for instance, this jumps in quite a few little bits of time, all linear, not back and forth, not like Slaughterhouse 5 or something. It jumps very linearly, and it goes through and follows a couple of different people, but mostly Red. And he has a daughter with his partner. And this daughter comes out, they call her Monkey, because her eyes are completely black. She's completely covered in fur. And as time goes on, she actually, when she's very young, is very bright for a child, very talkative. But as time goes on, she kind of regresses more into a more primal version of a human. That's what it feels like anyway. So there's some sort of nature undoing thing that the zone's affecting. And that child had never been in the zone, but her dad had constantly. Now, I wrote a couple of notes. I think, let's say the film version of this, which I do recommend, is stunning. That only follows people going in once. Now the rumour is in the book that at the centre of the zone there is a sphere, and this sphere will grant you any wish you want, but it will grant you your deepest desire, not the wish you say necessarily. It will grant you the wish that you actually want, not the one you say. So it's kind of more true to yourself, and that's the rumour. So in the film, it's about one journey in, when this covers many journeys over years. And what I love about it is you actually see the consequences of things going wrong. So one bloke, for instance, he goes in and he steps in this slime, they call it hell slime. And he loses his legs. Red drags him out and his legs are like jelly, like the bones don't work. And he's really scared about losing his legs above or below the knee. He's like freaking out about it. And he's telling Red, if you get me out, I will tell you where the center of this is, how to get there, how to map it. Because as you're navigating the zone, there's an odd thing that happens. These stalkers, they carry around bolts with them and they throw them. And it's all a sort of, what I really enjoy about that, instead of just making it very technical, oh, the zone's like this, the zone's like that. When I walk through this patch, it means this or that. They are a bit technical and they have mapped it. But he's still throwing these bolts. And I'm assuming here a little bit, is to see if there's any changes. To see if he's remembered things right, Red. Because if he throws something and all of a sudden the bolt darts off in a direction or something else happens and it doesn't just land on the floor, he knows there's something different or he knows there's something off. Now, society around them has changed, Imagine the head fuck this would give society. Imagine it. So in the actual town they're in, the people who leave, the people who go off and go out into the world, weird things happen wherever they go. If they turned up to your town, there would be hurricanes that randomly happen. There may be more storms. There might be bus or train crashes, car crashes, people randomly dying. It's like these people have been infected with something, but they've been testing these people, and these people don't actually physically have anything wrong. It's not like a cancer. There's not like a radiation they have. They're not emitting anything. They're completely normal, but they're also completely changed by it. It also covers the sleazy nature, the business behind this all. That because we see moments of coming in and out of the zone rather than one going in, we see these stalkers interact with officials, on the black market, taking risks, bigger risks to make more cash and live life as they do. And then also, as it covers like, it's got to cover about 20 years, something like that, 15, 20 years. We see the way it's affected the relationships, them as people. So before we get on to spoilers, I want to just talk about this, right? This book is interesting because it was written during the Soviet Union, in the Soviet Union, around Perestroika though, I think. And because of that, the government would send notes in saying about which words should be banned or not, which sentences are banned. They would give notes and say, can you amend this book? And in the afterword in this version, one of the brothers who wrote it has actually given us some of the notes they got given back. And it's had a really proper good eye into this world. He gives the page numbers and everything. So these are comments concerning the immoral behaviour of the heroes. There are 93 comments in all. The first 10 are presented. Page 21, must stick your fat ass. They didn't want that in there. Also page 21, I'll walk on my teeth, never mind my hands. Page 32, crawling on all fours. Apparently that's a problem. Page 35, I need just one more sip. And that's a moral behaviour, I'm assuming, because it's him drinking alcohol. 38, I'll get plastered tonight. I gotta beat Richard, and that's the thing. The bastard sure knows how to play. And then there's also comments concerning physical violence. There are 36, the last 9 are presented. Next time I'll knock, page 182, next time I'll knock a couple of teeth out. Page 185, now that cute little face appeared to be a black and grey mask made of ashes and coagulated blood. Page 202, may those bastards suffer. Let them eat shit like I did. Page 202, he hit himself hard in the face with a half-open fist. And also, comments about vulgarisms and slang expressions. Page 72, put in your teeth and let's go. I don't know why that's funny. Page 77, I'm dying of hunger. Man. Page 78, he was dirty as hell. Page 74, you're scum. A vulture. So if it sounds like something you'd like, give it a read. And what I'm going to do is just kind of, this last little bit, I'm going to delve into, I've overviewed a lot, but we're going to delve into the story at the very end with the last expedition to the zone. So if you don't want to know, you can turn it off here. If you don't mind, I think, yeah, give it a listen. Right. You've been warned. So at the end of this, we're following Redrick and, what's the kid's name? The son of the man who lost his legs. This kid has said, I will give you anything, like a big sum of money, so that you can take me to the middle of the zone. The kid really wants, his dad is just not the same anymore. He's not dead, he's just not good. The kid, I think he must be about in his 20s or something. He said he was past being educated, but he's definitely naive. He wants to be a lawyer. He wants to be, like, work his way up to president. You can tell he's trying his hardest to kind of get up the ladder. So he asks Red, take me into the zone. Let me see the orb. Let me see the sphere. I want to make a wish. And Red at first doesn't want to do it, but he gets kind of talked into it. Now, you don't really work this out at the beginning. You can kind of work it out because in the whole book up until that point, like about that far, you can see how shit life is for these people. They can't even escape the town they're in. So Red decides, right, what I'm going to do, take this kid in, take the money. But you kind of can tell, especially with his daughter being the way she is, being physically like a monkey. She's regressed completely, screaming at night, that he might want to make a wish. You just have this feeling, you know? He's desperate. So he goes, fine, I'll take you into the zone. He almost needed the kid there to make an excuse for himself to go back in. So he takes the kid in, and the journey they have is horrible. It's harrowing. They go through bits, like one bit called the grinder, and it's all they're constantly dodging these gravity wells. They're constantly dodging electrical storms to points when they're waist deep at first, and then over their head deep in like a sludge, so they can dodge electrical storms above them. And the kid at multiple times is so straught with fear that he's stood up when he shouldn't be. He's been told to get down on the floor as low as possible, and his face is burning, and he ends up on the floor dragged around. It's just, that last bit, you can just feel the slog. It's where I think Tarkovsky got his inspiration from. That this last little bit is so dense with the feeling of that slog that I think Tarkovsky instead takes bits out of the book earlier on and kind of implies them, and also talks about them in the film. It's been a couple of years since I've watched it. I've got to watch it again. I was going to watch it before this, but I thought I'm not going to get a chance, and I'd rather just talk about this. Maybe I'll come back and talk about Stalker. Now, Red takes this kid all the way there, and I think this is one of the biggest points in the whole book for me, right? Is at the very, very end. They reach it, and they reach this orb. They reach the sphere. And I wrote a couple of things down, not complete quotes, because I wasn't sure I was going to do this. These were to myself. Turns out it wasn't actually gold. It was a sort of copper. And it wasn't floating. They said it was a floating sphere. No, it was on the ground, and you could see the ground had pushed down under its weight. It was almost like it was another discarded piece of junk that had been left on the side. It just happened to be bigger. And Red sees on the side other like odds and sods, like trinkets. And the kid's dad had already brought people there. He had already brought people there and got them there and presumably made his own wish. And you've got to think, if he made his own wish, how come he's in this way without his legs? Obviously, he wanted to be taken back. After he had his legs taken off and he said about, I'll take you to the middle of the zone, he probably wanted to go and wish his legs back. But he couldn't. He was just in such a way he never would have made it to the middle. And then you think maybe the kid wants to wish his dad's legs back. Maybe his dad sent him, or his dad to be better. And then something happens. The boy is kind of giddy. They've made it there. They've been through the shit. They've been through the hell. And he just starts gunning it. Now, Red has noticed these trinkets on the floor I told you about. And this kid is gunning it towards the orb. And he works it out. The kid runs. Red watches him. And all of a sudden, one of these gravity swells picks the kid up and wrings him out like he's a towel in the kitchen. Like he's a sponge, and discards him. And Red thinks, right, that's it then. I've fed this kid to it. And he waits, ready to make his move. And you realise with the trinkets what Red's realised. The kid's dad, his name's Burbridge or something. I can't remember his name. The kid's dad had been taking other stalkers there and would have taken Red there. And the first person who goes in is almost like a sacrifice to kind of calm the spirit that's around there, the energy that's around there. And he waits a long time. I don't think it specifies, but it's implied it's kind of hours. And then Red has this little thing at the end. He says that, if I just find this. Now Red has been, the whole time, Red has been kind of unapologetically who he is. And there's this point at the very end, he starts running at this sphere and he starts shouting things, right? He starts shouting, if you really are all powerful, all knowing, all understanding, figure it out. Look into my soul. I know everything you need is in there. It has to be. Because I never sold my soul to anyone. It's mine. It's human. Figure out yourself what I want, because I know it can't be bad. And I think that comes in because the boy had gone in and started shouting about how he wanted to be president, how like it was very selfish wishes. And Red is saying, I'm pure. You can figure out what I want. You can figure out what I want in my soul. I am human. I am a pure person. He says, the hell with it all. I just can't think of a thing other than those words of his. And that's about someone before called Krill. Happiness, free for everyone, and let no one be forgotten. And that's his wish out loud. Now there is a little bit where you could say that is about him basically being pure. He's done all this kind of, he's been so jaded and warped by the zone that he has still kept his humanity in there when others have come just to find their wish, to not be human. And that's where the book ends, on that. There isn't a result. It's about Red, his journey. You know, he quite cruelly lets the kid get sacrificed. But he, in and of himself, is a pure person, as he would say. And what will be, I suppose. So yeah. It's getting quite dark in here. Look how dark this is on the thing. We've had a storm, and the storm's still coming. Right, I hope you enjoyed that. I wasn't expecting to talk for that long, but I really enjoyed this book, and I'm going to keep doing this, whether people watch or not. It'll be only once in a blue moon. And aside from this, I do upload my weekly kind of podcast, and if you see videos that are just a still image, that's from my podcast, Drifting Through with Matt Norming. I do poetry. I basically write a few poems a week, jokey ones, reflective ones, whatever, and then I just talk about it for about between 20 and 30 minutes. It's mostly on the 20 side of things, but I just don't let it hang over what it's got to be. So if you want to listen to that, there's videos of that, or you can look it through on your podcast app. You could just search Drifting Through with Matt Norming. I'm apparently, it looks like it's fucking night time here, so I'm going to pack everything up. I hope you're doing well. I recommend Roadside Picnic. Even if you know the end, I knew the end of that before I read it, and I still loved it. It's proper good. Proper good. Right, you take care, and we'll speak soon, yeah? Ta-da.